Ladies and gentlemen, our referee has called a stop to this contest, declaring the winner by knockout and new MMA show! Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another exciting round of and new MMA show. I am your host, Michael Hansen. Now, I do all kinds of terrific things with microphones because I'm a ring announcer and cage announcer, and I'm joined this week, as I always am. You want to take that call? By my two co-hosts who bring MMA punditry to new heights. Introducing first, in New York, it is none other than Mark Prio. What's up, buddy?
What's up, boys? How's it going? End of an era tonight. It will be the last time that I'm doing the show in this location because
nice.
We're moving out of this building tomorrow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. My dad sold it. So yeah, this is the last one. So I don't know what I'm gonna do. I might start doing something from my house. It's gonna be a catastrophe, but we're gonna figure that out. Additionally, I paid for it by not making fun of, but I said how I felt like you and your family were always sick, Mike. And the next day, I believe, after I said that, Lucas got the flu.
Oh.
And now me and my wife both have COVID. Things are going really fantastic.
Rough.
So hopefully I stay awake for this episode. I might pull an Omar, and Omar might also pull an Omar, so there might just be only Mike.
It's just me.
So we'll see.
Well, dude, I feel better, man. No good.
I feel fine, dude.
Yeah, what is this COVID hitting for you? What is it like?
This one, so the first time I had it, like back in the height of COVID, all I really got was I was just mad tired, and I had the body aches, but that was it. Yeah. This time, I just have to blow my nose. That's the extent of it. I have a cold, so hopefully it stays that way. It's hitting my wife much harder though.
Both times I got it, it felt like somebody beat the shit out of me. That was pretty much the extent of my COVID.
Yeah, I got COVID once, and I was super sick for 2 days, but it was only 2 days. And now every time I'm sick, I refuse to take a COVID test because when I had COVID and I went to the doctor, they didn't do anything for me. And she told me she would not. She told me to my face, she's like, there is a pill that I'm not going to give you because you're too young and you're not obese. And I was like, thanks for the copay.
Yeah, I would have never thought I had it at all, except my wife was feeling much worse than I was. We both were like, oh, we're getting a little cold. But then she had a night where she felt really crappy. So she went and got tested, and she comes home and she's like, yeah, I have COVID. I was like, what? She's like, yeah, you probably have it too. So she gave me the at-home test, and I was like, well, fuck. So, yeah, I would have never known otherwise.
Yeah. Well, feel better, man. I hope your kids all heal up soon too.
Yeah, they were negative somehow, so hopefully it stays that way.
Of course, that's how it goes. Well, all right, boys, let's talk about mixed martial arts. This week we have.
You want to intro Omar? Or are you gonna skip
oh, sorry, buddy. We already kind of alluded to him.
It's good.
So, introducing now in Florida, the Sunshine State. He is the Nicaragua Nightmare, Omar Artola. What's up, buddy?
Yeah, I'm going to do my best to stay awake here, but your boy he got his ass beat a little bit later this evening.
Omar might be here for recaps only. He's going to leave and he's going to pop back in to pick Dariush at the end.
I will say I did something new today where they had us conditioning our shins. And so me and my partner, they're supposed to stand in front of each other, shin to shin, and just grind our shins against each other.
Jesus.
Oh, my God.
My right leg, totally fine. Had no problems doing it. My left leg is covered in bruises. This motherfucker like glanced my leg, and I was not happy. My left leg was rough. Right leg totally fine.
Sounds horrible.
Dude,
it wasn't. I mean, overall, it wasn't great, but I can deal. The right leg was totally fine because I didn't have any bruises, so I can deal with it. Left leg was rough.
It's moments like this where sometimes I think about it'd be cool to train Muay Thai a little bit, do classes, or train in Jiu-Jitsu a little bit, take classes. Then I hear shit like this, I'm like, nah, man, I just want to lift weights. I just want to work out. I don't want to grind my shins. Oh, I love a little lifting.
I do it, but I hate it. Like I'm ready for Muay Thai by the time I'm done lifting weights. I like it's not my thing.
Muay Thai seems like it's more fun.
It's way more fun. Dude, there's something about cracking pads that really
soon.
Hitting pads just makes me so happy. The sound and everything just makes me so happy.
Yeah, I could see that.
All right, so let's talk about what we're going to talk about here on this fine show. We're going to start off with our first segment on the marquee, talking about the fights from this past weekend's PFL finals. Then we're going to go inside the MMA sphere with Omar, find out what is going on in the world of MMA outside of the cages, except for talking about things involving monogamy. And then we're going to look ahead to this coming weekend's UFC Fight Night. Great fucking Fight Night card. I was looking over this card earlier today, and I was like, oh.
Yeah, it's stacked.
UFC Fight Night Dariush versus Tsarukyan. And then we might end with trivia. We might not if it's like 1 a.m.
And if Mike's by himself.
At that point, I just do trivia by myself. I ask myself. Who has the fastest knockout, Michael?
Dumped me.
All right, before we get into any fight talk, let's address our audience here, our listeners, our viewers. If you're watching this right now on YouTube, thank you guys so much. Seriously, from the bottom of our hearts, we appreciate each and every one of you guys. We've been having this conversation, the three of us, for many years. We decided to take it online, to take it sort of public, and build a community around our shared passion for the sport that we all love, MMA. And we love that thoughtful discussion. Like I said, every other episode, if you guys like any of our takes, let us know down in the comments. If you disagree with any of our takes, let us know down in the comments. We are here for that thoughtful discussion. Drop us a like, a thumbs up, the easiest ways to support our show. If you've been liking what you've been watching, thumbs up, liking, subscribing, doing all those things. Let's go. Let's keep growing. If you want audio only, we got you there. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, find us on social media. You can find us on all the relevant platforms and places at @new_MMA show. Let's go. Here we go, boys. This week,
I'm going to add one thing to that real quick.
Yeah.
If you are someone who listens to the full episodes and you're hearing this intro, I know we have a lot of clips that we put out there, but if you're someone who, supports us and likes the show and knows anything about YouTube algorithms and how to boost us in that department, and you want to shoot us, leave us a comment or shoot us a message on Instagram or Twitter, whatever it may be, I would love that, because sometimes I think about, our reach and how I feel like it should be more. And I pop around and I check out other random podcasts on YouTube. And there are so many podcasts that have like 5K views and 10K views that I can't even listen to for more than like 3 minutes, because it's just some idiot in his room like, yeah, Armin Tsarukyan does really good kicking. And I'm like, how is 10K people watching this garbage? So if you know that shit and you want to help us out, since we actually, I would like to say, know what we're talking about, we would appreciate that. Shoot us a message.
All right, boys, let's get into this. This week, the name on the marquee has got to be Olivier Aubin-Mercier, who this past weekend defeated Clay Collard, becoming once again the PFL lightweight champion, winning himself another $1 million. He came to this victory by unanimous decision. All three judges scored this 5-round contest, 49-46 for OAM. Mark, start us off. Give us your take of the Canadian getting it done once again, climbing up to the top of the heap, wearing PFL gold and going home with a pocket full of cash.
Yeah, it was a little unclear who should be on the marquee here, since a whole bunch of dudes won titles and millions or whatever. But with OAM kind of more or less saying that he's walking away, felt right that it should be him. And he gutted this one out, man. It wasn't easy. It wasn't pretty. He had to push through an injury to his lead leg that he was clearly dealing with. An injury that Clay gave him. I don't mean something he came in with. And he had to resort, back to the grappling, which was his original calling card when he first broke onto the scene. And, never really left, but he's obviously mixed in the striking much more. And he had to really go back to being full-time grappler. And he made it work. he had started off very well. He won the first couple rounds doing his typical thing. He was safe in the striking, dictating the range. But by the end of round 2, you could see that lead leg had been hurt, and it was not the same. His movement started to look a little off. By round 3, you could see that it was really giving him problems. And that round is close. And then round 4, he couldn't find a takedown. Clay is pushing the pace, and Clay takes the round. And you're going into round 5 kind of buckling up like, shit, OAM can't really move, and he's running out of options. And Clay's going to hit that gas and try to run him over in the 5th, just like we said would happen if the fight went that far. But OAM stepped up, man. He barely even allowed that 5th round to get started before he pushed for one last big takedown, and he got it, and he took the back, and he was able to stay there for the entirety of the final 5 minutes. Turns out he did also win round 3, so he did have 3 rounds in the bank, but I wasn't sure live, and I'm sure he wasn't either. But he pulled it out. He ensured he was going to be the one walking out there with the million. So, tough win, not a pretty win. Like I said, Clay fought about as well as he could in that type of matchup, I think. It's a tough style matchup for him. But OAM gets it done, and he goes back to back and apparently rides off into the sunset, it sounds like.
Yeah, man. Omar, give us your thoughts on OAM getting it done once again.
I mean, you have to give him credit. I mean, his leg was getting chewed up early and often. A guy like OAM who relies on his lead leg to shoot and get those takedowns. I mean, it was really affecting him. And I think by the 2nd round, his leg started to really show that damage. So it was a good adjustment on his part. He dropped the 4th, I thought, pretty clearly. He was, trying everything by the end of that 4th round to stay away from Clay Collard. And like Mark said, by the 5th round, I thought Clay Collard would come out there and just smell blood and move forward. But OAM just nullified everything Clay Collard was going to do. And to his credit, also still made it competitive in the 5th round, as far as trying to, look for submissions, not just holding on for dear life, but was actually trying to look for a finish. Didn't get one. Clay Collard, obviously super tough, but I thought it was a good performance from OAM, man. A good way to go out. He's had a lot of finishes in his recent fights. This was, I think, was more of a safer approach, I think, that he's had in his last few fights, but definitely got the job done in a big spot. And, like Mark said, he rides out to the sunset with a nice bag of money.
So this is the place where we would usually be talking about what is next potentially for these two combatants in their professional journeys. But Mark, we pretty much know it's kind of a foregone conclusion, is it not?
Yeah, I will say that it's when you listen to him talk, it seems more like what he wants to walk away from is the season format. Because he talks about how for 2 years he's just been in constant camp and he's had to immerse himself so much because you always have a next fight and a next fight, and he has no life and he doesn't get to see his friends and all of this, and how he wants to have a summer off with his kid, or I forget if it's kid or kids. I think it's just one daughter. So it sounds more to me like it's the season. Like if they were like, hey man, enjoy 9 months off or whatever it is. And, in November, we're going to have a card in Montreal. Do you want to fight Usman Nurmagomedov? Are we 100% sure he's not going to be like, well, that sounds kind of cool. Like I'll be off until fucking August. I'll get myself in camp and then I'll fight Usman Nurmagomedov in Montreal. Like he sounds to me like a person who might not be done if the right offer comes along is basically all I'm trying to get across here.
How old is he now? He's no spring chicken. He's 34.
Yeah, but he's been around. Yeah, he's been in the game for a long time, at least a decade, if not more, professionally.
But I'm a little confused because isn't it kind of no different than a normal? I mean, it's formatted as a season, but he fought 4 times this year. And that's like somewhat normal, is it not? Would he wants to kind of scale it back to 2 or 3 times a year? Is that what I'm supposed to be picking up?
I guess his point was that all he does is he takes a couple weeks off after a fight, and then he's right back into the next camp for the next opponent, and he gets no time to breathe or be himself or live his own life.
I think the other thing too you got to keep in mind is that with this format, you can't you know, let's say for example, you don't take 4 fights a season or a year, right? We know fighters that take 2 or 3, but they can take them at some, to a certain degree, kind of whenever they want. That season format doesn't really give people that leeway. This is when it is. Show the fuck up. And if you don't show up to the first one, you can't show up to the second one. Like you know what I mean? Like you're done.
And also, yes, I do think he's at a point in his career where he feels like I could fight once or twice a year because I'm not like chasing it anymore. Like I'll just take big fights that really pique my interest.
And financially, he's at that point now.
Right, that too, for sure.
Where he's not doing like 80 and 80 anymore. Like he's obviously at a level where he's making decent purses.
Right.
Yeah, and it makes me think of when Don Davis was on Helwani a few weeks ago when he announced the merger officially between Bellator or the PFL buying Bellator, and he was talking about how Bellator is going to transition to be sort of the one-off events. I think Bellator is like no longer going to have their own ongoing belt system. Bellator is going to be their promotional vehicle to do these sort of one-off events, use Bellator for super fights. I think, what do they call it? The Bellator International Series or something?
He said something like that. Yeah, I don't know what that means exactly, but that's what he said.
Yeah, so Bellator is probably going to go to London, and they're going to go to Rio, and they're going to go here and there to put on big, pay-per-view events, and PFL is going to continue to be the season format. And he brought up Anthony Pettis, and he was like, Pettis is a guy who hasn't found great success in the season format. And Don Davis said, because the season format is the toughest thing in MMA. And I was like, is it? And at the time I heard that interview clip, I was like, is it? But now we have OAM kind of alluding to a similar idea. Like it's kind of a grind on these guys.
I also think it's more of a mental grind than you realize as a fighter. Obviously, I'm not a fighter, but I think to finish every fight, and especially in OAM's case for 2 years, and the second you win, your mind immediately goes to, well, I know I'm fighting this guy next, and that is immediately in your head, and you have no mental turnoff. Like in a normal circumstance, even if you win and then you accept the fight 3 weeks later for your next opponent, you had that 3 weeks where you're not in your own head about how you match up with a fighter and what you need to do and blah, blah, blah. So I think just the fact that in their head, they're at war the whole time and there's always a next obstacle to climb and you already know what it is with no downtime, I think that wears on you mentally too.
Yeah.
I think there's probably also something to be said about sometimes we've seen situations in this format specifically where guys will choke out somebody right after a hard fight or whatever, and then all of a sudden, oh look, I have to rematch him in 3 months because the points went however the hell they went, however that shit happens.
That's a good point.
So it's like you just did all this work to finish this guy, and like, you should be able to sit back and enjoy the victory and move on, and you can't. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I'm excited for PFL and the Bellator thing. I'm excited to see how it kind of works out. And just to finish the point of what Don Davis was saying, like a guy with the greatness of an Anthony Pettis should be fighting in these big one-off events and kind of super fights. He's earned this in this point of his career. He maybe shouldn't be, fighting in a tournament style in a PFL annual season. He deserves to be on a giant stage fighting other great lightweights or great welterweights. So,
agree totally.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move on to the co-main event.
Yeah, and Mike, I don't think we have to match up losers as we go through this because we don't even know what they're allowing between Bellator or PFL shit.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Okay. In the co-main event of PFL 10, the 2023 finals, Renan Ferreira, round 2 knockout, TKO rather, over Denis Goltsov. Omar, start us off. Give us your take of the heavyweight king of PFL earning $1 million and taking home the gold.
Yeah, he's got a lot of power, man. He's got a ton of power in those punches. I'm not super high on either guy's technique and how they throw things and how they set things up. It's a little on the sloppy side for me, but I think that's a lot of heavyweights in general. But you saw that it doesn't take a lot from Ferreira to put people away. I mean, he clipped Goltsov gently, basically on the side of his head. and his legs started doing a chicken dance real quick, and then he just went in and followed up. It was a great performance from Ferreira. I thought the first round was a really good round from him. I did think that he, tried to work on the bottom as best as he could. I don't think I can't remember. I don't think Goltsov was even able to really get anything off on the ground. But once the second round hit, didn't take very long for Ferreira to take him out. It was a good performance.
Mark, your thoughts?
Yeah, he is such a dangerous striker. And if he has evolved his ground game to a point where he could survive a full round under guys like he did here against Goltsov, then he's going to be a problem for anyone. Because if you give him more than a couple chances to reset on the feet, he's got a pretty good chance of landing the nuke. He's just so long, so powerful, and he's also very fast. And that combo, being that big and that fast, it makes him difficult to deal with. So, like I said, if he gets a couple chances to strike with you on resets, he very well may find something. And you feel for Goltsov, he's been a top guy in the PFL for a while. This was his fourth time trying to win one of these tournaments, and he started off looking great, but he couldn't get it done. And Ferreira's an exciting champion for the PFL to have. And, can he still be exposed maybe by a guy like a Ryan Bader? For sure. He could potentially get dominated by Ryan Bader. But could he also clip Ryan Bader? Yeah, of course. We've seen Bader be clipped before, so we will see.
There's one thing we know about Bader. Bader does not like getting hit, man, at all.
Yeah.
He's also so much bigger than Ryan Bader, I feel.
So much bigger.
Yeah, he's bigger than a lot of dudes.
What's Bader, like 6'1"? Am I way off?
6'1", 6'2"? 6'3" at the most, right?
Let's see. I'm looking.
6'2".
Bader is 6'2". Okay, I was off by an inch.
But he's a thick human being,
and
man.
Ferreira's 6'8"?
Bader's reach,
6'7"?
Ferreira's is 6'8", and Bader's reach is 74. What is Renan Ferreira's? 85, dude. Holy fuck, 11-inch reach advantage.
Dude, Ryan Bader is going to swan dive into a fucking takedown against that guy.
So what is
that?
Kidding
me?
He certainly is.
Almost, it's about a 7-foot wingspan. Jesus. Wow. It's a big man.
Yeah.
Shall we move on to Pacheco? Is there anything else you guys want to say about
I guess
Ferreira?
we dove right into the Bader matchup. But yeah, just to say one more thing on that real quick. It does seem like that's where they're going. It seems like, they're doing these champion versus champion where they can with the PFL and Bellator. And I know there was some mention on the broadcast of could he be the opponent for Ngannou. But I think if they're smart, they absolutely make the Bader fight first before considering anything with Ngannou. I don't even, and Ngannou might be boxing first anyway. But at least if Ferreira KOs Bader, or if Bader trounces Ferreira, either way, that winner is significantly more built up to be like, okay, they're justified to fight Francis Ngannou. Right now, it would feel very random, especially if it was Ferreira.
Yeah. It's crazy to me at this stage in his career, how much time Ngannou is taking off between.
Oh,
whatever.
I know. It is
so
crazy.
much time.
But he's taking it off to make bank.
He is. And as well he should. All right. In the women's featherweight division, Larissa Pacheco wins another $1 million, becoming the women's featherweight champion for the PFL by defeating Marina Mokhnatkina by unanimous decision. All three judges scored the contest 49-46 for Pacheco. Mark, what are your thoughts? This woman keeps getting better. Hit us.
I'm sorry. Did you finish that sentence? I didn't hear you.
Like this. I try to just hand it off.
Sorry, I blew.
You don't win them all. I don't win them all.
Yeah, this was wild, man. Just to see someone stand up to the power of Larissa Pacheco, the way that Mokhnatkina did was something. We haven't seen that from anyone in a minute. And the knee bar in round one really felt like she might get it for like a good 10 seconds. It was sweaty palms for a while there. But Larissa battled through it. She did, what she does the rest of that fight. But Marina just continually ate all of it. She kept looking for chances to bring it back to the mat. She did find some, obviously, but Larissa always defended well, always found ways to get back to her feet. Just kept marching Marina down nonstop, and she very clearly won the fight. There's no question about that. But it did feel odd to see her not finish it. Like, we've become so accustomed to the dominance of Larissa Pacheco that when she won, I kind of had to remind myself, like, yeah, she did fight really well. Like, she dominated the whole fight. Because in my head, it was like, man, what's wrong with Larissa Pacheco? Why did she knock her out? You know, so it was just, you're not used to seeing anyone stand up to her other than obviously Kayla. So yeah, props to Marina. That was a game performance if there ever was one. And props to Larissa, of course, now being a 2-weight PFL champion, which is pretty awesome.
Omar, your thoughts?
I would agree, man. I mean, Mokhnatkina came there to fight. I even thought she took the 5th round in the end. I thought she knew that she was down. She was getting mollywopped for the fucking good majority of that fight. Pretty sure her ear exploded in that fight at one point. Like, she was messed up. But in that 5th round, man, she tried to put it on Pacheco as much as possible. Pacheco had slowed down quite a bit from literally throwing haymakers at this girl for 4 rounds straight. Borderline unanswered, but you know, Mokhnatkina came in there to fight. There was a real discrepancy in the power between these women. I mean, Mokhnatkina had landed a couple of strikes against Pacheco's chin, and Pacheco didn't even move. So it was going to be a rough night for Mokhnatkina. But 5th round, I thought she really put the pace on, and I thought she won that round. But it was already, you know, without a finish at that point, it was already too far gone.
So what's next for Pacheco, Mark?
So going into this fight, I honestly just assumed that it was a done deal, that the PFL was going to ignore Pacheco and try to make Kayla versus Cyborg, just because that's all you ever hear about. But it does seem like they are being fair about it and making, or at least trying to, it's going to be up to Cyborg, who you know is never super easy, but trying to make Larissa versus Cyborg first and foremost, and having Kayla wait. So I'm a little surprised. That obviously is the fair thing to do. And that's an amazing fight, and I can't wait for it.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it'd be pretty dope.
Yep.
All right, we are marching through these finals winners here in the PFL welterweight division. Magomed Magomedkerimov becomes the $1 million man tonight, defeating Sadibou Sy, finishing him with a guillotine choke in the 3rd round. The official time, 1 minute, 17 seconds of round number 3. Goes home with the belt around his waist and the cash in his pocket. Omar, what were your thoughts of his performance?
Mark does these nice little breakdowns of this fight, so I'll let him do that. But I got to point out really quickly that Sadibou Sy going for that takedown at the end of that fight is now going to haunt him most likely for the rest of his life. I thought he was doing relatively well in that fight. He was using his length. They were trading. They were exchanging. It was a competitive fight. But I thought Sadibou Sy was in that fight, and I thought he was winning that fight up until that point. You could see that Magomed, which Magomed are we doing here? Magomed Kerimov.
There are many.
There are a lot of them. Magomed blanks. Just fill it in. But I thought he did really well as well. I mean, like I said, it was a competitive fight, man. But the way that he was able to jump guillotine into and actually finish that guillotine, I thought was super impressive. The takedowns, I thought, or the takedown attempts for the majority of that fight, I thought were really good. Sadibou Sy was able to get up from a lot of the ones that were successful, so that I thought was really impressive as well, especially against the guy who all he's going to want to do is go for your legs. So I thought it was competitive, but Magomed Kerimov just came away with that nasty little sneaky guillotine.
Mark, first I want to get your thoughts, but I also want to ask you, is Magomed the equivalent of Smith in Russian?
It certainly seems that way. And something ending in ov is beyond what we even have in
everything
America. But yeah, what a friggin' performance from Magomed Magomedkerimov. He was the man in PFL for a while, and then lost to, I believe, to Ray a couple years ago, and then last year he had some complications where he didn't get to factor into the tourney and try to get his belt back. And this year he makes it back, to the final. But people wondered if Sadibou had kind of passed him by, even though he had beat Sadibou in the past. But Sadibou obviously has gotten much better, and he doesn't just come out and win. But I thought he won every minute. He pushed a pace right from jump. He walked C down all fight long. He didn't seem concerned at all with the reach or the striking coming back at him. He was landing big shots to the head, to the body. He took C down repeatedly. He never got discouraged. All the times that C got up, he just went right back onto the pressure, right back into going for the next takedown. And then in round 3, he hurt him to the body. C went for that semi-shot because he was stuck in that phase of I just got hurt and I'm not really sure how to move right now, so let me duck my head down. And it did not go well. So Maga jumped guillotine, got himself a milli once again. And what a damn show from this man.
Yeah, man. So what could be next for Magomed Magomedkerimov, Mark?
So again, sounds like we're going to get him and Jason Jackson, which is an awesome fight. And it's frankly him and Yaroslav Amosov would also be an awesome fight. So there's a couple good ones that we could run into down the line there. But yeah, that one's a big one.
Yeah, man.
Speaking of Jason Jackson, I was what was I listening to? I don't even know where I caught this. I think it was on the radio in my car. Somehow I caught an interview of Derek Brunson, and he was saying how they asked him about Jason Jackson because I guess they knew they had trained together before, and they were like, "Were you surprised?" And he said, "Not at all." He said he is up there with the toughest guys he has ever trained with in his life in terms of who gave him problems. And then he name dropped. He was like, I've trained with John Jones, I've trained with GSP, and he is on the short list of toughest guys I've ever trained with.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that was interesting.
Yeah.
All right, marching on here. Oh, this is a fun one. In the light heavyweight division, Impa Kasanganay defeats Josh Silveira by UD becoming what?
Kasanganay.
Kasanganay. Sorry, what did I say?
Kasanganay.
I don't know, man. I could let certain things go. That one was
Omar wasn't having it.
That was
okay.
That was Chael Sonnen status, dog.
Bro, I don't want to hear it from you. You can't say Jan Blachowicz to save your life.
You ain't wrong. You ain't wrong. To this day, when I look at that name, I want to say Blachowicz so bad.
Blachowicz.
Francesca's listening. I know she's giggling in the background. She's like, he can't say it.
You can't say that shit.
Okay, Impa Kasanganay. This is my blind spot. Kasanganay. For me, I look at it. I'm like, I'm gonna say it wrong. I want to say Impa, a bright spot of these PFL finals, mainly because of I think his backstory. Before this, as we know, his claim to fame was being on the wrong end of one of the most stunning wheel kick knockouts in UFC history, at the hands of what's his name?
Joaquin Buckley.
Joaquin Buckley. Thank you.
Or however you want to pronounce it.
Yes, thank you. Joaquin, I don't know.
Joaquin.
Right.
Buckley.
Joaquin Noah, I don't know. So yeah, man, Kasanganay, he is now wearing PFL gold around his waist, and he has $1 million in his bank account. Mark, what were your thoughts of his performance climbing to the top of the heap here?
I mean, he was great. He was his typical self, exactly what we've seen from him on this PFL run. Though I feel like the story for me was more that I thought Josh looked pretty bad. Not as if he usually looks way better than that. He has his flaws. He's not some perfect fighter, but he just looked very slow and very weak to me in ways that I felt like stood out compared to what we usually see from him. So I don't know what his deal was. I don't know if it was just the pressure of Impa, but like even in the grappling, I thought he looked weak. I don't know. It was a weird showing from him. And then he upped the aggression late in the 5th round. And I was like, oh, there he is. That's the guy I thought I was going to watch the whole fight long. So maybe he felt like he had to conserve the cardio in a 5-rounder and he didn't trust that it would be there. And then once he hit round 5, he was like, oh, I'm all right. Let me push it a little bit. I don't know. He didn't look great. And I thought that he lost every round, even though oddly he didn't get hurt that much. Like the first few rounds, he actually had really good head movement and kind of just kept the hands up. And Impa wasn't really hurting him there, even though he seemed to be winning so clearly. And then last couple rounds, he just started showing off the chin where it felt like he should be hurt and he still wasn't. So
Yeah.
That was the odd aspect of this, is kind of no matter what Impa was doing, he couldn't really hurt him, but he still won it all. He controlled the whole fight. There was nothing Josh could do to change it, as we learned. Impa stuffed every single takedown, and he stuffed them bad. And he walked Josh down. He stayed composed at all times. He never rushed anything. He never risked compromising himself in any bad position. He picked his shots, and he just made sure that he was in control of every moment of that fight. And it paid off, and he got himself $1 million. And I agree. It was an awesome story. I loved the interview. Loved everything.
Omar, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I really like the way Kasanganay fights. There's a tightness in his style. He throws with a lot of big power. He doesn't overcommit to punches, which I kind of like. There's a lot of guys who have a lot of power that are just winging all the way back here, ending up all the way over here, off balance, off center. Kasanganay was definitely throwing with a lot of force behind it, but he was using his hip in order to do it and not just his upper body. And it was nice to see him be able to delineate that distance for a good majority of that fight. But I kind of have to agree with Mark. And I'm glad he used the word weak, because I thought that as well. And I felt kind of bad thinking like, dude is weak, right? Because with way that people train, I know they're not weak, but it just looked like he was getting overpowered from beginning to end. He looked extremely uncomfortable throughout the beginning of that fight, all the way through the end. The lateral movement that he was using didn't even seem like they were like he was doing it to his advantage. It just looked like he didn't want to engage. And he had certain moments in that fight where he did, and he was able to crack Kasanganay a couple times. Didn't really do anything for the most part, but I think in his attempt to try to stay in the fight to some extent, I think that that was happening. But good majority of that fight was him kind of running away and trying not to engage as much and trying not to get hit. And it didn't seem like the focus of that fight was for him to win. It almost seemed after a certain point it was just to survive and not get hurt. So great performance from Kasanganay to be able to cut off the cage as much as he did. I think he could have done an even better job doing it and really screwed that guy's life up just by cutting just even a slighter angle off and not just following him laterally and giving him the opportunity to circle as much as he did. But I mean, the dude's got so much power that it didn't really seem like he was in any trouble throughout that fight.
And afterwards, he called out a few people, Mark, did he not?
Yeah, so he called out Vadim Nemkov, which I guess is what they're looking at. And then he called out Francis Ngannou. So, and then he has reiterated in interviews since then that he's very serious about it and really wants to fight Ngannou. So, we ain't going to see that one. At least I highly doubt it. But I understand that he just fought in the 205-pound tournament in the PFL. But most guys in that tournament were career 85ers. Guys tend to go up in these PFL tournaments because of the constant schedule and not having to cut weight as much. And Impa's one of those. And he has even flirted with 170 pounds. He fought there in the UFC. So putting him against Nemkov doesn't seem like what I think the best option is. I mean, they're not dissimilar in height and reach. But to me, I feel like Johnny Eblen makes more sense for Impa than Nemkov. But, either way, I guess it'll be fun, but certainly not Francis Ngannou. Jesus.
Yeah, no, I think he would get. He probably would be just too small for Ngannou, in my humble opinion.
Yeah,
he's a 205er.
Yeah, really, he's an 85er.
That's true.
Like the dude he fought in the semis in this 205 was significantly bigger than him. Granted, he was more of a wrestler, so Impa was able to get through that. But to fight someone significantly bigger who is a knockout artist is a different story.
Yeah.
Impa ready to go to sleep for a bag.
Yeah.
He's ready.
Yeah, why not? All righty. Kayla Harrison defeating Aspen Ladd by unanimous decision. This one was not for PFL Gold. Kayla Harrison, of course, the former PFL Women's Featherweight Champion. This fight went down at a catch weight of 150 pounds. The scorecards read 30-27 on all three, all for Harrison. Omar, your thoughts of the former champ getting the win in this PFL finale?
I thought Kayla Harrison looked good. I thought Aspen Ladd looked good, but I also thought Aspen Ladd lost every round in that fight. I thought she made it competitive. I thought the reversals that she hit in that fight throughout that fight were absolutely gorgeous. Just seemed like Kayla Harrison was a step ahead, man. I mean, it was very reminiscent of watching somebody play chess, because as soon as Aspen Ladd did something pretty damn skilled, Kayla Harrison had a response for it, and had a response for it right away. You would think that there might be some kind of discrepancy on the feet just because Aspen Ladd maybe has more experience. Not so much, man. Kayla Harrison put those hands together, was throwing really good shots in there. Aspen Ladd needs to move her head a lot more. But I thought Kayla Harrison was significantly better in every area. It was a competitive fight, but it was clear to me that Kayla Harrison had won all 5 rounds. 3 rounds.
Mark, your thoughts?
3 rounds?
3 rounds, yeah.
3 rounds.
Because it wasn't one of the finals. It was just like a showcase fight. Yeah, same take for me pretty much. Kayla looked good. I thought the left hand looked quick early on, which was encouraging. Not something you usually say about her, so clearly she's been working. But she is just such a good wrestler. She has so much control of her own body, which she was really showing off at when multiple times Aspen Ladd almost reversed things and took Kayla down, but couldn't, because Kayla was able to shift the position right back in her favor. And Aspen was battling, like Omar said. She worked her way out of so many positions to get right to the point of reversal or right to the point of standing back up. But every time, as soon as she did, Kayla would take her right back down. And it wasn't like she would drag her back down. They were sweeps. They were mat returns with impact. And that's demoralizing right after you finally stand back up or you think you're about to reverse the position yourself. So she just worked. She worked Aspen Ladd all fight. I agree. Aspen Ladd didn't look bad, but I also agree she didn't win any of that fight. So Kayla got it done. Obviously, we know she's such a good interview. She killed it here as well. She called out Cyborg, which you'd hope to hear from her. But as I touched on earlier, it does sound like she'll have to wait a little bit for that if they're going to do Pacheco first.
So Cyborg did technically respond to Kayla's call out by, I think it was an Instagram video where she was watching the call out. She put the phone down and I think yawned and walked away. So I think it was a no from her.
Yeah. I think if they are going to do Pacheco Cyborg, if they get Cyborg to do that, and I've seen Cyborg tweet something that said something along the lines of like, no one has spoken to me, no one invited me there, and obviously other champs got invited there. So I'm not sure what that's about. But if we're going to get Pacheco Cyborg, I wouldn't mind seeing Kayla fight Leah McCourt, because Leah McCourt was supposed to be the next opponent for Cyborg. She thought she was getting that title shot. So at least if you gave her like a number 1 contender match with Kayla right now and you have the winner of that fight ready to fight the winner of Pacheco Cyborg, that would be a pretty cool way to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
I don't hate it.
And keeps Kayla busy instead of just having her sit there.
I don't know how active Kayla wants to be. See, I don't know if she's a 4-fight-a-year girl. Yeah, is she?
Well, not a 4 fight a year, but she complained significantly about having not fought for a year.
Yeah, they screwed her on that season format for sure. That is 100% for sure.
Yeah, and she was hurt also, which was part of it. But I know Cyborg is boxing soon, so by the time you ever get this fight agreed to, and then Cyborg fights Pacheco, and then you book Cyborg Kayla, you know, that's a while away. So I would think Kayla would want to fight between now and then, but who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, moving on. 2 more here for PFL. The debut went well for Derek Brunson in his first fight under the PFL banner. The former UFC veteran gets it done, defeating Ray Cooper III by unanimous decision in what was a rather dominant performance. The scorecards reflected it: 30-27, 30-25, and 30-25, all for the former UFC vet Derek Brunson. A pretty favorable matchup in hindsight, at least, for Brunson to get his first win immediately out of the gate. Size alone, Ray Cooper is a guy who began his pro career as a lightweight, and now the second half of his career as a welterweight. He has certainly had, you can say, has found success. He's been in the PFL finals 3 times. He has won twice. And Derek Brunson, he kind of dusted him here. Mark, what are your thoughts?
Favorable says you after you both picked Ray Cooper.
It's true.
Yeah, so I said any result was possible in this one. I said that we could see Brunson dominance or a Cooper KO in 2 minutes, and we almost got both. we almost got the Cooper KO because Ray caught Derek with a few clean ones early. He even dropped him at one point with that crazy shot where Brunson had his leg. But thankfully for Derek, he recovered. He got the takedown. And then from that point forward, we got the Derek Brunson dominance. I will say, first off, that if elbows were legal in the PFL, there is no doubt in my mind that Ray Cooper does not make it out of round one. He was
100%.
dead under Brunson. He was in huge trouble. He could not move. The only thing keeping him alive was that Brunson had to posture all the way up and find angles to throw punches, and that Ray was able to grab his arms and grab his wrists. Whereas if your wrist is getting grabbed, it's a perfect time to throw an elbow. So no doubt in my mind, if Brunson could have elbowed, that fight was over in the first. But either way, it was all Brunson. He was too big for Ray, and the wrestling was too good. I know he has mentioned that he wants to fight. This is what I said. Guys go up a weight class because of the season format. He's mentioned that he wants to fight in the 205-pound tournament next year in the PFL. But if they are really going to put, I guess I'm going right into the fight now. Maybe I should have waited. But
do it.
If they are really going to put Impa against Vadim Nemkov, then that means there is no opponent for Johnny Eblen on this, potential super fight card. And I say, why not Derek Brunson?
Yeah, why not? For sure. I like it. I like it a lot. Omar, let's bring you in here for Brunson's results. What were your thoughts?
So supposedly they're not doing a 135 and a 185 weight class for PFL, which I don't think I ever made that connection, that they don't really have 185. Because
I was talk of will they do it now, but yeah, they don't at this moment. Yeah,
supposedly they're not. They have no plans to introduce it.
Really?
But when I was watching the PFL, this weekend, and we were doing all these weight classes and stuff, and I'm kind of like doing some counting here, and I'm like, I'm missing. Did we miss something here? And never occurred to me that they didn't have a middleweight or a bantamweight division. So very interesting. Even more interesting that's where Derek Brunson would start his PFL career, in a division that doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
But it's fine. Ray Cooper, though, I thought I didn't think he looked great, man. I he had some moments for sure, but I didn't think he looked great. I thought he looked very much out of shape in that fight. I guess that probably has to do with the fact that he had to make 185, and there's probably no way for him to.
He didn't even make it. He missed weight.
Yeah.
Wait, that's right. He was too big, right?
Yeah, fucking welterweight missed 185.
Yeah, I don't understand that, man.
He's a frustrating guy, man.
Right there.
He has performances where he's great, and then does things like this where he just comes in out of shape and looking bad.
He looked terrible. Like physically, he looked terrible. The same way we were like, Islam looked really good. Like physically, like he looked like he was in peak form in that fight. This is the opposite of that. This is the other end of the spectrum. He looked horrible physically. Like from a mile away, we were like, man, this guy's got maybe one round of cardio in him at best at this point. And he got run over a little bit. He had some moments where his flexibility was good. Definitely caught Derek Brunson with a nice little punch on one leg, like half in the air. But overall, it was obvious that Brunson had more strength, had way more technique for sure. And I think Mark makes a valid point about the elbows, because you could see Derek Brunson thinking about throwing elbows and like having to stop himself from throwing the elbows and disqualifying himself after beating Ray Cooper half to death. So I thought it was a great performance from Brunson. I can't tell you that I'll still pick Brunson in the future because I still don't trust him. But it was a good fight, I guess, for him to showcase that he's here. He's here for some real shit. So
yeah, man,
good for him.
Well, we already.
Sorry, go ahead, Mike.
No, please. I was going to move on.
Oh, I can't remember if we said this last week or not, but to me, I wish the PFL would just allow the elbows when it's not in season, because I get it that you don't want to do it then, and especially once the tournament starts, because you don't want to get a guy cut and then he can't fight when he's due to fight. But like when you hit the finals, let the dudes in the championship elbow, because there's nothing after that. And if it's a fight that's not even part of the season, like that Brunson fight, let them elbow. What's the reason not to? So I don't, I get their reasoning about we don't want cuts, but That's only in the season. The rest of it doesn't make sense to me.
Oh, I forgot. I was wondering what's their rationale for no elbows? But
that's what it is. Yeah,
it's like even a guy who was a winner could have taken an elbow that cut him bad.
Correct.
I see.
And then he can't advance in the tournament. Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Forgetting the fact that he also could have a concussion or something like that.
Well, yeah.
Because I guess you can't fight in 2 months if you have like stitches over your eyebrow or something.
Right. You can't stitch a concussion. They're fine with that. It's fine.
But I am interested if they do that Eblen fight, just because it actually is a really good litmus test of us finding out how good Johnny Eblen is. Because as much as Derek Brunson has his, negatives you could say about him, he's been in there with the best of the best very recently. So if Eblen was to beat him clearly, it still tells you a lot.
Yeah, and it's definitely a fight that could happen because I don't think they're not putting belts up from what I remember. They're just fighting to fight. You know what I mean? So it's there's nothing really on the line that fight wouldn't necessarily make sense if we're just doing fights that we want to see, basically.
Yeah.
All right, so we already alluded to what could be next for Brunson, so let's move on to our last PFL recap here. Back to the champions in the featherweight division, Jesus Pinedo. Oh, wait, was this a championship fight?
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Jesus Pinedo becomes the PFL featherweight champion, defeating Gabriel Alves Braga by TKO, the official time, 58 seconds of round number 3. Omar, start us off. Give us your take.
Great fight, man. Great fight from both guys. Great technique. I thought Pinedo, in the end, the biggest difference was really the combinations. I just thought he strung to get the combinations a lot better than Braga was able to. Braga kind of had one or two shots, tried to sort of maybe do a little bit of slipping or a little bit of pausing in between those moments, but Pinedo just didn't allow it, man. He was throwing 3 and 4, mixing them up from high to low, getting those body shots, those body hooks in there as well. I mean, he was putting in a lot of volume throughout that fight. And I think it caught up to Braga in the 3rd round. I mean, it was just a shot he didn't see coming. It came right over either right over or right under a shot. I can't remember. Mark, do you remember with your photographic memory?
My brain wants to say over, but I don't feel good about it either. I can't remember.
I think it was a shovel hook that ended up hitting him from almost like underneath the arm as it came out. Yeah. Anyway, it messed up Braga. I will say that the stoppage was a little on the early side. I think it could have been, we could have let that play out a little bit more considering the situation and how much wherewithal it looked like Braga still had under him, but that's not Pinedo's problem. I thought Pinedo did his job perfectly well. I thought he put it on Braga, especially in that sequence, and he walks away $1 million richer.
All right. Nice, Mark.
I thought the stoppage was horrible. Stoppage aside, one talking point obviously does have to be how well Jesus Pinedo adjusted from their first fight. He looked great. He upped his movement compared to the first fight. He upped his aggression. He was certainly landing the harder shots. I thought he was ahead. And it's possible that he may have been on his way to finishing Braga. But in the fight that we did see, he certainly did not finish him. That was an awful and indefensible stoppage, in my opinion. Not to mention, Braga has never lost a fight. You just took his O from him when he was defending with his hands up and not even badly hurt. On top of that, you took away his shot at $1 million. You took away his shot at Patricio Pitbull when, again, he was defending and not even badly hurt. You cannot do that. It's a huge fight. It's a huge moment for him. You cannot do that to that dude. It's just trash. It's an awful way to end that fight. But, to switch back to Pinedo, he was certainly ahead. I would hope he would have won no matter what. And he does continue to look really, really dangerous.
Yeah, I think
we should... I just want to point out really quick that we had this referee that was so willing to stop this fight so early. When we had the Deathmaker, Mario Yamasaki, also in attendance, and had we had this man in that cage for that fight, I mean, we know Braga would have been able to walk away from that moment.
Do you know who the referee was?
It was not him, because I went back and I looked.
It was Fernando Yamasaki.
No fucking way.
Yes.
Was it?
Yes.
Oh. One is too soft and one is too liberal.
Correct. They're brothers, for anyone who may not know that.
Mario Yamasaki is very much the if he dies, he dies.
Dude, it was a tough stoppage to watch, not because somebody got really hurt, but because I just feel like you just can't stop a fight when a guy's on his feet defending himself.
Yep.
It's different in boxing. I feel like in boxing that is much more acceptable. If a guy is really getting beat up and taking too many punches, referees seem to step in and no one has a problem with it. But in MMA, there's just a little bit more of an appetite from the fans to want to see a guy kind of go out on his shield and kind of give him more of a warrior's chance. I don't know.
Things weren't even landing. Like, obviously, the first punch landed.
Right.
And then he gets the knee, but it's not 100% clean, and Braga just is knocked back to the fence from the impact of the knee. And then the whole barrage, like, nothing lands flush. Like, some things are touching him, but he's moving, and he's got his hands up at his head, and he never wobbles. He doesn't show anything like that. I just, you can't step in right there. You can't.
Yeah, I agree. All right. So we've already alluded to what could be next for Pinedo, yes?
Yeah, so again, it sounds like it's going to be Patricio Pitbull, which is one hell of a fight, especially for him because he is going to be a lot bigger. So he will have an interesting chance to pull something off there.
Yeah. All right. Well, that does it then for PFL 10, the 2023 PFL Finals. Congrats to the 6 new champions. All right. That being said, let's go into our next segment here inside the MMA sphere. Omar, tell us what's going on in the world of MMA outside of the cage.
They're still doing a lot of talking about the Bellator and PFL merger. Things like Scott Coker may not be involved going forward at this point. There's a lot of overhead in the business as it is, and more than likely Scott Coker is not going to be the decision maker for a lot of what's going on here. And so they expect the decision to be made by him and others that it'll be best for him to just kind of move on from that. And so we'll probably see a lot of changing of hands in that regard over the next, year or so, I would imagine. Definitely the next few months, if not sooner than that, we'll probably have some preliminary answers as to who's going to be running the business and how all that's going to be playing out. So that's really been like the big talking points generally throughout the week. Just a little bit more news in that regard. Don Davis has come out and have conversations with Ariel Helwani. There's another dude today who was the guy for Bellator, Mike Kogan.
Oh yeah,
he was I don't remember his specific. He was like an exec for Bellator.
He was one of the execs. Yeah.
So I think that Mike, you were the one that was telling us that this was the guy that was talking about one championship and talking wild shit about one championship and how they're just bleeding through money and you can't be a startup for 10 years and angel investors are no longer willing to put any more money into it, or at least that's according to him. So we'll see what happens with all that, but that's really been the talking points this week. I do want to mention that BKFC 56 is going down this weekend.
Fuck yeah, it is.
Fuck yeah, it is. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is Mike Perry versus Eddie Alvarez. I might pay for that. I have been going to Wild Wings for UFC pay-per-views for like the longest time. Your boy might shell out real money for this one and just sit my ass at home because this is fantastic. This is a fight that I want so bad.
Yes.
But yes, Mike Perry and Eddie Alvarez will be throwing down bare knuckle. I can't fucking wait. Is
the co-main something good too?
I'm actually have no idea.
Huh.
For BKFC, I'm just that guy that shows up at the very end. I pay my ticket just to show up for one fight.
Let's see.
I have no idea.
The co-main is Ben Rothwell and Todd Duffy.
Oh, wow. That's dope, actually.
Todd Duffy.
And And the feature
Jeremy
fight
Stevens is on this
is
fight.
Jimmy
He's on this
Rivera
card?
and Jeremy Stevens.
Wow.
Dude, Jeremy
Why are
Stevens
they
is much bigger than
stuck
Jimmy,
down
isn't he?
there?
Jeez.
Yeah.
Jimmy fought at 135. This is at 155.
I mean,
Christ.
Jimmy hadn't fought in a minute though. Jimmy might be a thick boy now.
Yeah, I guess, but he's smaller for sure. But yeah, those are 3 intriguing fights.
I'm not sure why Jeremy Stevens and Jimmy Rivera got stuck in the position they got stuck in now looking at this card, but
What do you mean? They're the feature fight. You're just saying you want them to be co-main over Rothwell and Duffy?
I want them to be like right under Rothwell and Duffy. That's not how I see it on here. Am I wrong?
Oh, that's
Is it
how I
different
see
on
it.
there?
I guess we're seeing it different.
Okay.
That's where they are.
Yeah. MMA fighting has their shit all messed up then. Anyway, definitely don't miss that. That is definitely one of the highlights of December before this year ends. So definitely get that on your radar. Next piece of information: Dan Hooker is going to be undergoing surgery for that broken arm of his. That, of course, I bet you he never even attempted to let heal. I guarantee you that kid was training with it like the next day. So he's got to get some real healing going on with that arm. So he'll be out for a minute. Bobby Green is now going to be facing Jalen Turner at UFC Austin on December 2nd. That's obviously this weekend. We'll probably be going into that relatively shortly. Azmat Mirzakhanov is out of the Austin card as well. Anthony Smith will be stepping in to fight Khalil Roundtree on this weekend's card as well.
No, they bumped
my
it.
bad.
They
Next
bumped it
weekend.
1 week. Yeah, they bumped
next
it 1 week.
card. To the Apex they go.
Yep.
Kevin Holland versus Michael Venom Page. It has been rumored for UFC 297 on January 20th. This was basically a leak from an image inside of the War Room where they generally have all the matchups and things like that. So it's very possible that this is what they want and that nothing is official yet. And that Michael Venom Page is not signed.
It had little red circles next to it, and the other fights didn't, which makes me think that's exactly what that means. That it's like
it could be tentative,
yeah.
Right? That is seemingly like that is the plan, but it doesn't seem like Michael Venom Page is an official UFC fighter as of yet. But goddamn, do I want that? Do I want that fight? That's a great fight. Great fight. Next on the list, we have Luma Lukbunmi versus Bruno Brasil. That fight has been added to UFC's Vegas card on February 10th. Jack Hermanson versus Joe Pyfer will be headlining that card on February 10th.
Huge chance for
Joe Pyfer with a headlining event already.
Let's go.
A little wild, to be honest. But
yeah, I agree. I totally agree.
I guess if Abus Magomedov can have one, then so can Joe Pyfer.
But wasn't a boost like a last minute thing? It's not like they
no, dude, they fucking booked him in Strickland. That was the booking.
Oh, really? I thought that was a last minute change.
No.
We also have Yair Rodriguez versus Brian Ortega 2 finally happening. That fight is going down for UFC Mexico.
Well, that's only a rumor too, right? I haven't seen that confirmed.
I've seen, I guess so. Yes, that's true. It's not by UFC at this point, but UFC Mexico would be.
Did you see the other rumor with it?
I did. Oh, wait. I did not. What is it?
Moreno and Albazi as the co-main.
I did not see that. Ooh, that's
that's a good one.
That is a good one.
Wow.
Moreno last then on the list.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Pedro Munoz versus the Matrix Kyler Phillips has been added to UFC 299 on March 9th.
Like
that fight is fantastic. That, ladies and gentlemen, is all we have for you this week.
Good finish.
Those are some fucking great fight announcements.
Oh, man.
Thanks for making those fights, Omar.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. That's what I'm here for. It's what I get paid the big bucks to do.
You worked hard. I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let's move on here. We're making decent time given our late-ish start time. And let's talk about this upcoming weekend's very nice UFC Fight Night card. UFC Fight Night Dariush versus Tsarukyan. Headlined by these two lightweight greats, Beneil Dariush and Arman Tsarukyan. The co-main is Jalen Turner stepping in against Bobby King Green. We also have Rob Font versus Davison Figueiredo. Sean Brady versus a returning, skinnier Kelvin Gastelum. We have a Clay Guida fight. We have Puna Soriano taking on Dustin Stoltzfus. We have Miesha Tate in the featured bout on the prelims. This card is phenomenal especially for a fight night card.
Yes.
Let us start with Drakkar, Klose, and Joe Solecki. But before we do, are there any other fights or fighters on this card, given how stacked it is, that you guys want to quickly spotlight for our listeners and viewers?
Bro, real quick, because you said something about Skinny Gastelum, like, are we sure this boy's gonna make weight? Because he don't look skinny. He does not look skinny at all.
Oh, really? I saw a couple of things and I thought he looked good.
I'm not saying he looks bad. I'm not saying he looks bad at all. He just doesn't look like he's 170 pounds. You know what I'm saying?
Really? Yikes. We'll see.
He just looks like, I mean,
a couple days.
I can't imagine that Gastelum's going to get smaller the older he gets. Like, he's filling out and he's not going backwards.
Small, not even.
He's cut a lot of the fat out. I can say that for sure.
He has like 30, 40 hours. How tall is Gastelum? Isn't he like only 5'8", 5'9"?
So it's always he's about my height, actually. I think he's like an inch taller than me.
I want to say 5'9".
I stood next to him, so I'm trying to remember how
5'9". Yep.
Yeah, he is. He's just taller than me. Yeah,
but he's a thick, dense guy.
He is. Yeah, dude. I would not be able to wrap my arms around that dude. That is a thick boy. That is a thick boy. Anyway, continue. I wasn't sure how thin Gastelum was. You know what I'm saying?
Are you trying to tell me that if he was facing off against Tom Aspinall would not be able to reach out and put his arms around Kelvin Gastelum?
He'd probably put his fucking hand on his shoulder instead.
Thank you.
I did not realize where you were going with that. Well done.
Oh, no?
No. I wasn't paying enough attention. I've been putting the odds. I never wrote in the odds. I probably would have caught it otherwise.
Who else? Anybody else that you guys want to quickly...
Oh, yeah, undercard, sorry.
Yeah.
I'm interested in Melquizael Costa. He's fighting Steve Garcia. Yeah, he has definitely looked interesting. He's got some nasty Muay Thai. And Garcia comes to scrap, so that's probably going to be a fun fight. This dude, Rodolfo Bellato, that's debuting against Ihor Potieria, seems like he might be a beast. Veronica Hardy's on it. I was super surprised with how much better she looked when she came back. Granted, it was against Juju. So not 100% sure what to take away from it, but I guess we'll find out in this one.
Okay.
But yeah, that's it for me.
Dog, Dan Hardy talks up that girl so well that he's got me fucking believing that this girl is gonna whip somebody's ass.
Oh yeah, he's been saying that she can be champion. Like he is. Yeah, he is pushing.
But he's got me, bro. He's got me. He's selling me on it. He's selling me on it like it's a timeshare. It's dangerous.
She's the underdog. She's the betting underdog in that fight against Jamie Lynn Horth.
But dude,
I bet
you got to take it with a grain of salt. Nothing against Veronica Hardy or Dan Hardy. I love Dan Hardy, but it's his wife.
Oh, I know. Yeah. I'm fully aware. I'm saying Dan Hardy does a great job, though, of championing his wife.
Yeah.
Because he's selling me on it, and I don't, I'm not there. But he's got me. He's got me hooked now. So I'm definitely ready to see her fight and see what she's got.
I'm so regretful that Dan Hardy was let go by the UFC. He was one of their best commentators, one of their best color guys. He's 100%. One of those guys who was a talented as hell fighter, has a great mind for the sport, for competing. He has a fucking PhD level knowledge of fighting. And the great combination is that those things combined with the fact that he has the gift of gab. Like he's a great talker.
Yeah.
It sucks
when you can articulate that stuff really well. I think it's a rare skill. Dan Hardy does that really well. Robin Black, a lot of those analysts, I think the very few guys do very well. Yeah.
All the guys who get called up to that job by the UFC, they're pretty talented at that as well. Anyway, not to get too bogged down. Here we go. Let's start in the lightweight division bout between Joe Solecki and Drakkar Klose. So Solecki is the 30-year-old out of New Jersey. He's 13-3 as a pro. He has 9 submission wins to his name. And he's coming off back-to-back wins coming into this weekend. He'll take on Drakkar, close to 35-year-old out of South Haven, Michigan, not too far from me here. His 13-2 and 1 draw, 5 knockouts to his name. Also coming off back-to-back wins coming into this weekend. Mark, start us off. Give us your take and your pick of Solecki and Klose.
Odds very tight here. Klose is -125. Solecki is +105. They're the same height. Solecki has a half-inch reach advantage. Solecki is not someone I've ever been able to fully buy into as a guy who I feel can beat the upper portion of this division. But the man is 5-1 in the UFC at this point, and his only loss is a split to Jared Gordon. So the record is showing that maybe I'm wrong, but Drakkar Klose is solid, man. I just think he's better. I think he carries more danger on the feet. I think he's the better wrestler. Yes, Solecki will have the advantage when it comes to who's the bigger submission threat and could certainly find something, but and maybe he fights a little smarter than Klose does. But I just think Klose is the better athlete, quicker, hits harder. I think he can keep it standing if that's what he wants to do. And I think it'll show that he's the better fighter here. So I will go with Klose UD.
Omar?
I would agree with that as well. I think Klose not only is the better fighter overall, I think his experience is better. I don't think he'll be getting worked on the ground. I think the way that Solecki needs to be able to do to people in order for him to take advantage of those positions. And I think standing up, I think Klose is going to be able to put paws on him. I just think he's going to be a lot stronger. I think he's going to hit a lot harder. I think Solecki is going to use his striking to try to set up the ground game. And I think when it doesn't work, I think Klose is going to be able to smother him and really put some damage on him. So I'm going to go with Drakkar Klose, 3rd round TKO.
Yeah, we're unanimous on this one. I couldn't say it better than Mark. I think that Klose is just going to be the better fighter. I'll take Klose in a UD as well.
For those keeping track at home, Mike retook a 1-fight lead on me this weekend. So the drama is building. Not that many cards left here.
Yeah, I know. Only
These
a couple
big
left.
fight picks.
For those of you also wondering, I am not in the mix here.
Next year, dude.
I fucked up. I fucked up a long time ago.
I done fucked up.
Next year, 2024, I'm going to make all heart picks. No more brain picks for me.
No, that's
all feel.
Bro, you're going to get my record. It's going to be against me and you, and Mark's just going to be at the top of the heap at that point.
Alrighty, here we go. In the women's bantamweight
Speaking of hard picks.
Speaking of, yeah. The great Miesha Tate returning to the UFC octagon, taking on Julia Raging Panda Avila. Miesha Tate is the 37-year-old from Tacoma, Washington. Her record stands at 19-9 coming into this weekend with 11 finishes. 7 of those are submissions. She's very much looking to getting back to her winning ways, coming off back-to-back losses and losing 4 of her last 5 professional fights. Although after she lost back-to-back fights to Amanda Nunes and Raquel Pennington in 2016, she retired and took a few years off and then returned, defeating Marion Renaud, and now has lost back-to-back fights to Ketlin Vieira and most recently Lauren Murphy last July. So July of 2022. So another fairly long layoff for the 37-year-old Miesha Tate, the former champ. This time she'll be standing across from Julia Avila, the Raging Panda, the 35-year-old fighting out of Bakersville, California. Her record stands at 9-2 coming into this weekend with 4 knockouts and 2 submission victories on her record. And she's coming off of a submission win over Julia Soliarenko. She has not fought in a minute either. That last fight was in June of 2021. So both ladies coming off of long layoffs. Miesha Tate, the former champ. Omar, tell us, who are you picking and why?
Well, I'm picking Miesha Tate because I'm overly emotional. Tate hasn't looked great in her recent performances. I think she's trying to find her footing again. I think the landscape has changed a lot since she was really involved in the game. it's difficult for me to gauge it because somebody for me like Julia Avila should not be beating a Miesha Tate. But at this point, it is a very big possibility that could happen. I think the performance she had against Juju was fantastic, but it was an equally terrible performance from Juju as well. And we've seen Miesha Tate, like I said, have. Oh no, that's not Juju. My bad. I was reading Julia Stolyarenko, and I just read the first name and automatically just went into that.
It's all good
mode. But my point still is that a Julia Avila should not be, in my head, beating a Miesha Tate, but definitely a very big possibility at this point in Miesha Tate's career. I'm going to stick on the Miesha Tate train. If it blows up, it blows up. It is what it is. But I'm going to go with Miesha Tate here by decision.
I will go next. This is a very tough fight to pick. There are a lot of variables, a lot of question marks here. Not a lot of recent data on either of these ladies. Like Omar said, Miesha Tate, when Miesha Tate returned and she fought Marion Renaud, she looked great.
Yep.
And then she seemingly did a 180 in her fight against Ketlin Ferreira. And then she also did not look great against Lauren Murphy last year. So, like I said, a lot of question marks. That being said, Omar took the words out of my mouth. I don't want to live in a world where Miesha Tate is losing and losing and losing. I'm going to guess that in this year off, she has recalibrated some things. I don't think that Julia Avila will have any significant advantage over Miesha Tate in anywhere in this fight. Miesha Tate, for once, has the height and size advantage, I believe, over her opponent. Yeah, I'll go with Miesha Tate by decision, but not with any great degree of confidence. Mark, give us the odds and your take.
Did you say Miesha was bigger?
She's 2 inches taller, isn't she?
I have it that she's 1 inch shorter and 2.5 inch less of reach.
I'm looking at Sherdog, and Sherdog says Miesha Tate is 5'6", and saying Avila is 5'4".
Yeah.
Wow.
Maybe that's wrong.
I got it from Tapology, so they just must have it different. Unless I wrote it wrong. Let's check if I wrote it wrong, because now I'm curious.
I'm going to check oofs.com.
Yeah, Tapology has Avila as 5'7".
Oh. I wonder what UFC has.
The UFC has Avila at 5'7" and Miesha Tate at 5'6".
Yeah, so I think Sherdog may be wrong, because that would make sense with the reach, because Avila's reach is 2.5 inches more.
Well, then never mind.
So yeah, betting odds, Avila is the favorite. She's minus 145. Miesha is plus 120, so pretty tight. Avila a bit bigger, as we just said. And I get it that she may be a bit bigger and that she has shown some good things. But for me, if Miesha doesn't win this fight, she can just call it right here, because there's no reason to keep pushing on this comeback bid if she's not beating Julia Avila, because Prime Tate would wreck her. But with that said, I still think this Tate beats her. I think Avila can be out-wrestled, and I would like to think Miesha is still capable of that. She can eat some shots and be okay. We know that, if that's what she has to do to close the distance, and I think that she won't have that much trouble getting inside. So I will go with her to win a wrestling-based UD.
Okay. Oh, I got to cue up the next one. Son of a bitch.
Hold. You got to what, the next one?
I got to cue up the next one.
Oh.
I'm going Puna. This is going to be a fun fight. It's hard not to root for Puna Soriano, man. Okay. Where are we here? In the middleweight division, Puna Storytime Soriano taking on Dustin Stoltzfus. So excuse me, Soriano is the 31-year-old out of Hawaii, USA. His record stands at 9-3 with 8 finishes. 6 of his 9 wins have come by knockout. He's looking to get back in the win column after getting knocked out by the rising Roman Kopylov back in January of this year. And he is back taking on the Pennsylvanian, Dustin Stoltzfus, 32 years old. His record stands at 14-5 with 7 finishes, 5 of them submission victories. Also looking to get back in the win column after losing to Magomedov in September of last year. So a little over a year since he has stepped into the octagon. Omar, start us off this time. Give us your take and your pick for Soriano versus Stoltzfus.
You know, this is an interesting fight for me because I don't particularly rock with Stoltzfus. I don't really expect much from him, I guess. But Soriano is one of these guys, man, that like could be doing real well and then drops the ball, right? A real Butterfingers kind of moment, fucks up completely, gasses out, lets the fight go. Like we've seen a lot of these things happen over time in some of his more recent fights, and especially in the last like 4 years or so, or like 2 or 3, probably more accurate. But my point is he's so unreliable that it's difficult to pick him against a lot of people. Stoltzfus, though, is probably one of those guys that I would pick him to win against. I don't trust Stoltzfus probably even more than I don't trust Soriano at this point. So I'm going to go with Soriano here. I think if he does win, though, he's probably going to end up knocking him out. So I'm going to go with Soriano by knockout round 2.
Yeah, I agree. I look at Soriano's record, and he has lost to a few guys recently who have really climbing up to the upper echelon of middleweight, particularly Brendan Allen, and more recently Brahmakopilov, who really is proving himself to be a real banger at middleweight. That being said, I'm going to roll with Soriano one more time, even though he's lost 3 of his last 4. I'm a fan of his striking. I'm a fan of his power, and I think he's going to get it done over Stoltzfus. I'll say he finishes him by TKO in round 2. Mark?
So Puna's a pretty significant favorite. He's minus 300. Stoltzfus is plus 240. 1 inch of height and 2.5 inches of reach for Stoltzfus, though. I think this is a loser gets cut fight. I think these guys are fighting for their jobs. Stoltzfus has lost 4 of 5 in his UFC tenure. Puna has lost 3 of his last 4. Granted, he's at least 3-3 overall in the UFC, but if he can't beat Stoltzfus and loses 4 out of 5 himself, I think the Puna experiment in the UFC is probably over. So he better get this done, and I do think that he will. I think Stoltzfus is a perfect matchup for him. I think he's there to be hit and is potentially an opponent that Puna could finally style on. So I think he will do that. I could see him even mix in wrestling at times, and I think eventually he puts him out, and we're going to be unanimous because I am also saying round 2 knockout for Puna.
Oh, baby.
3 round 2 knockouts.
It better be a fucking round 2 knockout. All right. Let us go up to the lightweight division with Clay the Carpenter Guida taking on Joaquim Silva. Clay Guida, the ageless wonder, is the 41-year-old. I'll say that again. The 41-year-old fighting out of Round Lake, Illinois. My goodness. His record stands at 38-23. That is quite the record. That's what happens when you've been fighting for probably more than 2 decades.
50,000 years.
Of his 38 victories, 21 have come by way of finish, 7 of them knockouts, 14 of them submissions. He's looking to get back in the win column once again after losing to Rafa Garcia back in April of this year. He has sort of been ping-ponging back and forth between wins and losses for, well, many years. But Clay Guida, a fan favorite, and rightfully so. People always appreciate, or fight fans always appreciate his energetic style. He has an endless motor, but it's going to be tested this time against the very talented Joaquim Silva. His nickname is Neto BJJ. I'm not really sure what that has something to do with jiu-jitsu. He is the 34-year-old fighting out of Goiás, Brazil. I'm saying the Neto part. What is Neto?
No, I know. I'm saying when you did this something to do with jiu-jitsu, I said.
Likely. Yeah. His record stands at 12-4 with 7 knockout wins and 3 submission victories as well. You'd think he'd have more submissions than knockouts, Mark. That's his fucking name.
With all that Neto BJJ he's got going
on. He's also looking to get back in the win column after getting knocked out by Aubin-Mercier back in June of this year. I will go first this time. I will be rolling with the Brazilian Joaquim Silva, only because at this point, Clay Guida, please retire. I appreciate you. I love you. But I don't really want to see you get punched in the face by a younger, stronger, more dynamic striker in Silva here. So I will be taking Silva. I will be taking Silva by UD because I think that Clay Guida is a master of like not going away ever in a fight. So Silva by UD is my pick. Omar, go.
I think Joaquin Silva is not a foregone conclusion that he's going to beat Clay Guida. Clay Guida's got 20 years of miles on him. He's got another 50,000 miles on his face. But this man comes to scrap. He is an Energizer bunny, and short of you putting him to sleep or knocking him clean the fuck out, probably not going to get the better of him in that sense. So I just think Clay Guida is going to find a way to tough out the early onslaught that is most likely coming his way from Silva. And I think once we hit round 2-ish, I think we're going to start to see Silva slow down little by little. Clay Guida doesn't do that, even at 150 years old or whatever he is. And I think we're going to see Clay Guida take over in round 3, and I think we're going to see him melt him. So I'm going to go with Clay Guida round 3 TKO.
Wow. Mark.
We have our first difference. We were unanimous all the way to this point. Odds are wider than I thought they'd be. Silva is minus 335. Clay is plus 255. 1 inch of height for Silva, 1 inch of reach for Guida. Yeah, like I said, I think those odds should be closer. This fight's tricky to me because I do think Silva is a much more talented fighter than what his record shows, and that could potentially be visibly obvious in a matchup like this one against Clay. But at the same time, as up and down as Clay has been, 3-3 in his last 6, the 3 wins are Michael Johnson, Leo Santos, and Scott Holtzman. So it's not like Clay can't beat legit dudes anymore. All those dudes are legit. So I don't think Clay should just be looked past here. And obviously Omar didn't look past him at all. But Silva is so strong and so powerful. Plus he's got good jits. He's got Neto BJJ. And I think that those things can combine to provide him enough chances to hurt Clay. Because I think he'll be a little hard to control for long stretches, and I think that's going to give him some chances on the feet to hurt Clay. And I think he's going to have all 15 minutes to do it because I don't see Clay getting him out of there. So I'm going to say he eventually finds it, and I'm going to go round 3 TKO for Silva.
Oh, baby. All right.
Now we're getting into the big fights. Dude, this is like a pay-per-view from this point forward. These 4 fights are fucking stacked.
They are. It does feel like a pay-per-view. A lot of names, a lot of star power. Let's go. We go now to the welterweight division, a fight between Sean Brady and Kelvin Gastelum. So Sean Brady, the 31-year-old out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. His record stands at 15-1 with 7 finishes, 3 of them knockouts, 4 of them are submissions, coming off of his very first loss of his professional career, getting TKO'd by Belal Muhammad back in October of last year. So a little over a year out of the cage for Sean Brady, looking to get back to his winning ways and welcoming Kelvin Gastelum back to the welterweight division. Gastelum needing no introduction to MMA purists and diehards. The 32-year-old, wow, he's only 32. Out of Yuma, Arizona, his record stands at 18-8 with 1 no contest coming into this weekend. With 11 finishes, 6 of those are knockouts. Most recently, winning by UD over Chris Curtis earlier this year in the spring. Although he had been losing quite a bit at middleweight. Pretty much his loss to Adesanya set off a string of losses with one win in the middle of all of that, defeating Ian Heinisch. But then he lost to Whitaker. He lost to Cannonier. I will go first once again. Man, oh man. Interesting fight. Tough fight to pick. My heart says I want to go with Kelvin Gastelum because I want him to be relevant once again in the promotion. I've been wanting this guy. I've said this a few times on this damn show, that this guy belongs at fucking welterweight. He belongs at fucking welterweight. And finally, we're getting it. But I think that this is a very, very difficult task for Kelvin Gastelum. Would I like for this fight to stay on the feet and for Kelvin to show off his probably much superior boxing skills? Yes. Do I think that's going to happen? No. Even though he's moving down to welterweight, he's been fighting 85ers. He is fighting one of the thickest, most stout and built welterweights in the top 10 in Sean Brady. He's top 10, right? He's got to be.
Probably.
Second guessing myself for a second. He's ranked.
Oh yeah, he's certainly ranked.
So I think that Sean Brady, as much as I want to pick Gastelum, I think that Sean Brady is going to use his grappling. He's going to make sure. What's that?
9.
He's 9. Thank you. I think Sean Brady is going to use his wrestling. I think he's going to find his way to the mat with Kelvin. I know Kelvin has a bit of a wrestling base himself, but Kelvin really is known for his striking. And I think Sean Brady hops back in the win column. The guy is just a winner. As much as Kelvin has shown flashes of brilliance in his career. I mean, pre Alex Pereira, Kelvin gave Adesanya his toughest fight in that bout. And then look what he did to Michael Bisping, man. Like, Kelvin can have real flashes of greatness. But then you get a lot of losses as well with Kelvin. So Sean Brady being the winner that he is, I'm going to say that Sean Brady uses his grappling here, gets himself a UD right back in the win column. Mark, why don't you go?
Realized I didn't have the odds written down for this fight somehow, so I just wrote them. Very tight. Sean Brady is the favorite. He is minus 125. Gastelum is even money, plus 100. 1 inch of height and 1 inch of reach for Brady. So yeah, Kelvin is finally back down at 170 pounds, where he belongs. I do think he looks good in the images I've seen. He's sounding good. I've seen a couple interviews. Now we just need to buckle up and pray that this man actually makes the weight. But assuming he does, he is finally back at his proper weight class, and I believe he should be beating Sean Brady. I know Brady's good. I understand he hasn't lost to anyone yet other than Bilal. But if Kelvin is in good shape and is normal Kelvin, I don't think the game Brady has beats him. I expect Gastelum's wrestling to hold here. I don't think Brady has an easy time getting him into grappling situations. Maybe he might find a couple, but I think Kelvin can work out of them. And on the feet, I think he can piece Sean up. So I'm excited to see this. I'm going to go with Kelvin. I do think it's possible that if he can stuff enough takedowns, he can even find a finish in this fight if he's causing prolonged striking exchanges. But I'm going to say it is Kelvin Gastelum by UD.
Nice. Omar?
I also agree with that. I think Kelvin Gastelum, as long as he can make that scale properly and he doesn't look like he's killed himself to get there, I think personally, I think he's just going to be a little bit more skilled. I do think his boxing is nasty. His hand speed is really
good.
slick. And the reality is that if he needs to rely on his wrestling, he has the ability to do that as well. And I think his wrestling is going to work a lot better on guys that are not like massively oversized against him. So I think it'll be a good showing for Kelvin Gastelum as long as he can make the weight and make it well. So I'm going to go with Kelvin Gastelum here by unanimous decision. If he looks like shit on the scale, though, I reserve the right to change my pick.
Oh, yeah, 100%. 100%.
Nice. All right, now we go down to the bantamweights. So we're going to have Sean Brady welcoming Kelvin Gastelum down to the welterweights, and we're going to have Rob Font welcoming Davison Figueiredo up from flyweight to the bantamweights. So Rob Font, the 36-year-old out of Boston, Massachusetts, 20-7 as a professional with 13 finishes, 9 of them knockouts. Most recently coming off of a decision loss against Corey Sandhagen back in April of this year. Bear in mind, Rob Font has also lost 3 of his last 4. But he is a great nonetheless. Another great, Davison Figueiredo, the former UFC flyweight champion, 35 years old, fighting out of Para, Brazil. His record stands at 21-3 and 1 draw, with 17 finishes of his 21 wins. 9 of those are knockouts. 8 of those are wins by submission. And he's looking to get back in the win column and find his first win at this new weight class in the UFC after losing his belt to Brandon Moreno for the second time back in January of this year. So Figueiredo looking to reinvent himself at 135 pounds and start a new chapter in his career. Mark, will Rob Font spoil the party? Your thoughts?
So the betting lines indicate that he will, but it's very close. He is minus 145. Figueiredo is plus 120. 3 inches of height and 3.5 inches of reach on the side of Rob Font. This is a really hard one to call because we've seen some flaws in Rob Font, and we haven't seen many in Figueiredo. But weight classes matter, and size matters. And I think that 135 is just better in general than 125. So I'm going to say Rob Font ruins Davison's bantamweight debut. I think the length matters. I think the jab is going to be landing a lot from Font. I think Figgy's going to have a hard time getting inside. And even if he tries to wrestle, I'm not sure I see Figgy having a ton of success wrestling Rob Font. So maybe I'll be wrong here. Maybe I'm down Figgy too much, and we're going to end up with a new 135-pound contender. But I just don't think this matchup is a great one for him to debut in. That the glaring thing to me is just the length and the ability to use that jab that Rob Font should have in this fight. So it's another one where I could even see a finish. If it was 5 rounds, I think I'd pick it. But it's a 3-rounder, and I will go with another UD, Rob Font, UD.
Omar?
I think I'm going to go in the Figueiredo direction, man. Rob Font likes to play at range. He likes to use his jab. He likes to use his boxing to keep guys away from him. But we have seen Figueiredo kind of juggernaut his way forward. And he's not the kind of fighter that I think can be easily stopped like Rob Font can do to some other guys not at that level. I think the weight classes is good. I think seeing Figgy at this weight will be interesting to get a real picture as to where he stands and how his skills translate with guys that are bigger. But in my head, just with the way that they fight, I feel like Figueiredo is going to be able to walk him down a little bit. And I see Rob Font probably doing a little bit more backward movement than he might be planning to be doing. So I'm going to go with Figueiredo here, man. I don't think he finishes him, but I do think that he gets the better of him at least 2 out of these 3 rounds. So I'm going to go Figueiredo by decision.
Wow, we had polar opposite takes on that fight. That was like first take level stuff right there.
Tell me the odds one more time. Remind me of the odds.
Font minus 145, Figgy plus 120.
Yeah, very interesting fight. A lot of variables at play here. The biggest one to me is that it'll be interesting to see how Figueiredo fights a guy that is bigger than him, because I think that he has enjoyed the advantage at 125 pounds so often of just, I think Omar used the word juggernaut, and I think of the same exact word of just being the juggernaut in the matchup, of just being bigger and stronger and more athletic than seemingly pretty much every single one of his opponents down at flyweight. But now he's fighting a guy in Rob Font, and now I trust Sherdog's statistics a little less here, but Sherdog has Figueiredo at 5'5" and Rob Font at 5'8".
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see Figueiredo match up against a guy that he's not going to be the juggernaut against. And another question, anytime a guy shifts weight classes up or down, the question is always, if a guy goes up, the question is, will he be rejuvenated now that he doesn't have to suck down so much weight, or will he just be at a disadvantage? I feel like, I mean, I'm looking at the profile photo of Figueiredo right now on his Sherdog profile page, and it's him walking into the cage in what was one of his flyweight bouts, and his torso looks like a cheese grater. Like, the man must have fought with like 2% body fat. And he's one of those guys who at 125, he was scary to watch on the scale. It's like, my God.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
Give this guy something. So,
God, you're right about that picture. I just had to pull it up myself. Christ.
Yeah. This is a little bit more of a field pick for me. I'm going to go with Figueiredo because he is a goddamn dynamic and powerful striker. I'm going to guess that not having to cut to 125 is going to do wonders for him and his health and vitality in the cage on fight night. I'm going to say that he gets Rob Font out of there. I think he's going to give him a little bit of an onslaught in that first round. I'm going to say he's going to get him out of there in the second round by TKO.
Wow. Love it. That'd be big.
Yeah.
We can make it. Fight, we can make it, guys. Your boy's feeling the wall getting closer.
I am too. I need to take medicine. You can probably hear it. My whole head is just closing up. I can't breathe. Two more. We go fast. Okay, co-main event going down in the lightweight division. Jalen Turner taking on Bobby King Green. Real quick, this fight was supposed to be a 5-round co-main between Bobby Green and Dan Hooker. This would have marked the third time a non-main event, non-title bout would have seen a five rounds. However, a week ago, Dan Hooker had to withdraw because he broke his fucking arm. And he was replaced by Jalen Turner. The bout has been downgraded from 5 rounds to 3 rounds. So here we go. Bobby King Green, the 37-year-old out of Redlands, California, 31-14 with 1 draw and 1 no contest. 20 finishes of his 31 wins. 11 of those are knockouts. Most recently, back-to-back wins against Tony Ferguson back in July of this year and Grant Dawson in October. Both of those are finishes. So Bobby Green has been looking fucking good lately. He'll be taking on a very interesting matchup at lightweight. This guy's an interesting matchup for just about anybody at lightweight, given his stats. Jalen the Tarantula Turner, 28 years old, also out of California. He's out of San Bernardino. His record stands at 13-7 with 9 knockouts and 4 submissions. You heard that right. All of his wins have come by way of finish. But he's looking to get back in the win column after back-to-back losses to Mateusz Gamrot and Dan Hooker. Both of those are split decision losses within this calendar year. Omar, start us off, buddy. The walls are closing in, but you're going to push against him, and you're going to pick this goddamn fight. Give us your take and your pick of Bobby Green against Jalen Turner.
This is such an interesting fight, man. Such a great fight. Such a great matchup. I've been really high on Jalen Turner for a little bit now. He's had some speed bumps in 2023 where Bobby Green has had some real rocketing success in 2023. I think momentum-wise, these guys are on opposite ends of the spectrum. And from a skill standpoint, man, it's very difficult to, unless somebody is significantly better at something than Bobby Green, it's real hard to pick against Bobby Green, man. I think Jalen Turner, the best thing that he's got going for him in this fight, I would imagine, I think Mark could probably give us a little more insight on this, is the physical attributes of Jalen Turner. Jalen Turner looks like a massive motherfucking dude. He's like,
I'll give it to you right now if you want to talk on it.
Yeah.
He's 5 inches taller, and he has a 4.5-inch reach advantage.
What is he, though? He's like 6'1", right?
He's 6'3".
Yeah.
He's 6'3"?
At lightweight.
Fuck me, man. Yeah.
He's the tallest lightweight.
The one thing, the length is one thing. The height is obviously a whole other thing. Guys that tall, though, in smaller divisions generally tend to have like things missing in the durability department, right? Either their legs sometimes cannot have as much thickness, or their arms may not be as thick as some other guys. So there might be some vulnerabilities that Bobby Green can look after in that fight. The real issue with Bobby Green is you never know what Bobby Green's going to show up, right? He's a very unorthodox fighter, very playful fighter. He enjoys being in there. He enjoys the process. Sometimes, though, especially when we start getting into the ground game, and the Tony Ferguson thing was a great move from him to show he still has ground game. He still got it. But being on his back has never really been his forte. Being on top on the ground, probably a different story. But Jalen Turner might very well look for a way to take this down to the ground. And if that does become the case, I think this could be a very rough night for Bobby Green. I'm going to go in the way of the momentum in this specific case, though. So I'm going to roll with Bobby Green here, but I think it's going to be a rough fight. I don't think either guy gets anyone out of there. And I wouldn't be surprised if this ends up being a split decision in the end, but I'm going to go with the decision win for Bobby Green.
I will go next. I know what to tell you the truth. I like going without knowing the odds sometimes. Sometimes I want to know them, but right now I want to pick this fight blind.
I always make sure that not like I've never changed them, but like when we go into a week, I always write down my picks before I look at the odds for the same reason. Because I don't want to be influenced.
Right, exactly. You don't want to be swayed.
Yeah.
That being said, interesting fight as well. These are all fucking interesting fights. Short notice. That's a big question mark for Jalen Turner stepping in on like a week's notice. But Jalen Turner doesn't ever seem to be a guy who gets out of shape. He always is in tremendous shape, or at least looks like it. And I think Jalen Turner is a hell of a striker. Before these back-to-back split decision losses, he was on a 5-fight win streak. And that fight against Dan Hooker, man, in July, that was one hell of a fucking battle. I really felt like that could have gone either way.
Yeah.
I'm going to be taking Jalen Turner in this fight. Bobby Green is very polarizing to me in his performances. He either looks phenomenal, like he should be top 5, or he gets knocked out. So I think that Jalen Turner, with those attributes, those attributes and those advantages that he has, I think he's going to use that range on Bobby Green. I think Bobby Green's going to be doing a lot of talking in there. Man, I love watching Bobby Green, though. Man,
Oh, yeah.
I kind of hate making this pick because I also root for Bobby Green and I want to see him in those big spots. But I also think that Jalen Turner is a great young up-and-coming guy at only 28 years old. I'm going to say he finishes Bobby Green. I'll say in the second round, TKO for Jalen Turner.
So you'll be happy to hear that the bookies agree. He is minus 220 as the favorite.
What?
Wow.
Wait, who?
Turner, minus 220 favorite.
On a week's notice.
Correct. I'm
What?
surprised as well. I thought he'd be favored, but not like that.
I thought Bobby Green would be favored.
I still thought it'd be Jalen just because of the size. But yeah, Bobby's plus 180. So if you like Bobby, worth a bet there. 5 inches of height for Turner, 4.5 inches of reach for Turner. I might regret this pick since I'm in this battle with Mike, but I'm going to go with Bobby Green, and it's for a couple reasons. I know that I heard originally Jalen Turner was not interested in taking this fight. He said he didn't like the timeline, didn't feel like he was ready for it, and was eventually convinced to take the fight, I guess, because of the money. So now a guy who already has a hard time at times managing his weight and sometimes his cardio has to do that on short notice. And plus he's going to have to focus very heavily on getting his weight down, I would imagine, for being such a big guy, and probably not focus as much as he would like to on the game of Bobby Green. So I think that's all a factor here. And Bobby Green, I think, is in the best form of his entire career. It feels like his comp. Sorry, I literally can't breathe at this point. For anyone who's only watching the clip of the preview, I have COVID and I've been all right, but it's fucking hitting me right now. But yeah, it feels like Bobby Green's confidence, which has always been high, has hit like the stratosphere. I don't think he can see himself losing right now, it seems. And I'm going to choose to believe. It's a dangerous pick, obviously, because Bobby is going to be willing to strike. And 5 inches of height and reach for Jalen Turner at 155 pounds is enormous, and we know he carries KO power. So Bobby is going to have to walk that tightrope if striking is what he's going to do here. But I think I am going to say Turner fades as this fight goes on under the pace of Bobby Green. And Bobby Green was ready to fight a 5-round fight. So you know he's bringing the pace now in a 3-rounder. So yeah, I'm going to say that he takes rounds 2 and 3 and wins himself a big UD.
Okay.
That rhymed. That was nice.
It did. I didn't realize. Thank you.
All right, boys. Last one. Here we go. Main event, UFC Fight Night. Dariush versus Tsarukyan. By the way, I forgot to mention that this is going down in Austin, Texas. So not at the Apex, at the Moody Center in Austin, Texas. According to the internet, the event will mark the promotion's 5th visit to Austin and first since UFC Fight Night Cater versus Emmett in June of 2022. Good to know. Okay, main event time. Also in the lightweight division, Beneil Dariush taking on Arman Tsarukyan. Dariush, the 34-year-old, fighting out of California, 22-5 as a pro with 1 draw, 5 knockout wins, 8 wins by way of submission. Most recently got TKO'd by the great Charles do Bronx Oliveira back in June of this year.
Yeah, he did.
The champion has a name.
That's exactly right.
That loss to Oliveira snapped a 8-fight win streak by Dariush. So looking to get back in the win column here, but a very tough task taking on the rising young star in Arman Tsarukyan, the 27-year-old out of Russia, 20-3 as a pro, 8 knockout wins, 5 submission wins, coming off back-to-back wins against Damir Ismagulov and Joaquim Silva back in June of this year. Okay. Omar, start us off. Give us your take and your pick of this headliner between Dariush and Tsarukyan.
This might be one of the tougher ones. I think we're probably going to pick for a while, man. It's such a great fight. Tsarukyan has such promise as he's come up through this division. Dariush has obviously had his ups and his downs. He's had a lot of ups until he had a big down. And I don't know why, man. I don't know why it's so easy to almost count Dariush out to a certain extent. Why I'm even... It's almost like that Tony Ferguson effect, right? Where like Tony was like winning, and then he lost, and then it was difficult to sort of pick him after that loss. Oh, man. I mean, we've been talking about Tsarukyan now for a minute, finally getting an opportunity in a big spot against Dariush. It's very difficult to pick, man. I think I'm going to go with Tsarukyan here, man. I think I'm going to go with Tsarukyan here by 2nd round TKO.
Wow, TKO. You think he finishes Beneil? Wow.
If there's one thing about Beneil that is that is a thing is he's another one that doesn't eat shots very well. You know, he has moments where he can kind of swing back and try to fight through it, but his body does not react to getting cracked like a lot of other fighters do. Like he eats shit a lot of times when he gets hit really hard, and Tsarukyan is not the dude to be eating shots from. And Beneil Dariush gets hit, that's a guarantee. So I'm banking on Tsarukyan and putting paws on him.
I think it was his fight against Drakkar Klose, who's also on this card, where he was rocked by Klose. And then in that storm, he found the finish. That was back in 2020. I'll go next. I'll say this. There's there are some traditions in this sport. And one of the long-standing traditions is that Beneil Dariush keeps getting screwed and will never get a title shot. And I think that this is one of those fights. Beneil has only improved over the course of his career, forgetting the loss against Olivier recently. Like I said earlier, he was on an 8-fight winning streak, just getting better and better, really peaking, culminating in that decision win against Mateusz Gamrot. Even though that was a decision win, Beneil looked as good as he ever has against the rising Gamrot. But then things went the way they went against Oliveira. And now he takes on the young phenom in Tsarukyan. And I put a lot of stock in Arman Tsarukyan. I'll say that right now. He's so young. He's so talented. And yeah, I agree with Omar. Beneil is the kind of guy who will take a shot to give a shot. And I think that Tsarukyan is a pretty complete mixed martial artist, and he's going to mix it up. He's going to find his shots, and he's also going to implement wrestling when he needs to, even though Dariush is competent everywhere as well. But I'm going to go with Tsarukyan. I'm going to say that Tsarukyan gets this done 3 rounds to 2 for Arman UD. Mark?
I agree this is a very close fight. It is not that close on the lines. Arman is minus 305. Beneil is a plus 235 underdog.
Fucking disrespectful.
Yeah, it's a bit crazy. 3 inches of height for Beneil, but actually half an inch of reach for Arman. This is such a good main event because no matter who you pick, there's a very good chance that you could end up looking dumb. Like, both of these guys are capable of being that good, and you can only pick one of them. You know, Arman's grappling is absolutely elite. But would anyone be shocked if Beneil puts on a scramble show like he did against Gamrot?
Yes.
And finds some bigger shots on the feet and wins? No, not at all. On the flip side, Beneil seems like he's, the bigger finisher and is so well-rounded that maybe he could find some advantages. But would we be surprised to find out that Arman is that good that he just edges out Beneil everywhere this fight goes? No. So it's very hard to call. To me, Arman has lost 2 fights in his life, and they are the second fight in his whole career back in 2015, and a short-notice debut against Islam Makhachev where he made it to the cards. I don't believe he lost the Gamrot fight, so that is it. It's a pretty damn good record. Dariush, as good as he is, I feel like we've seen more holes in his game than we've seen in Arman's. Arman is the one who is a bit more of a machine to me. He's a bit cleaner, bit tighter, bit safer. He's more responsible defensively. Doesn't let the game plan get away from him like Beneil will tend to do at times. I think I trust Arman's cardio more. I'm not sure if I'm right about that, but it's what my brain wants to say right now. It's all small edges, and I don't have a great point to hang my hat on. Like, Font, I went with Font because of his jab, and I didn't go with Turner because the late notice and the cardio. And this one, I don't feel like I have a strong point of why I want to go one way or the other. It's that close that I think I'm just looking at these small edges of Arman being a little cleaner technique-wise, a little safer defensively. And, you got to lean on something when a fight's this close. So I will say Arman edges it 48-47 UD.
Wow. Well, there you have it. That does it, boys. I think.
What do we have? 3 differences.
3.
Gastelum, Brady, Font, Figgy, and Green Turner.
Nice. Could go either way.
Did Omar have anything unique? Omar went Guida. That was his unique one, yeah.
Yeah, I can't believe you went Guida. That was a hard pick.
Good work.
Good work, guys. Good show. We rallied. You guys both deserve some bedtime.
Facts.
Yeah, can I request no trivia?
No trivia. I don't have a trivia because I also want to fucking go to bed.
I have to be up early tomorrow too. Fucking hell.
Yeah. Well. All right. Enjoy this great fight night card this weekend, guys. And we will see you down in the comments section. Until next week. Any parting shots, guys?
What is the start time? Is it a regular 10 p.m. deal or some bullshit? I mean, I'm going to answer my own question because I'm already pulling it up as I'm asking it. It's fucking 7 p.m. Fucking Christ. No one cares about me.
What, is 7 p.m. bad?
Yeah, dude. My kids aren't in bed till like, I'm out of the room at like 8:45.
The main card starts at 7?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that is too early.
Yeah. Fucking, it's gonna be halfway through the main card already. I'm
Yeah,
gonna see
that
3
does suck.
fights.
It's gonna be like, it's gonna be like it's gonna be the Figueiredo fight.
Yeah, balls. Whatever, we'll figure this out.
Whatever. All right, guys.
All right,
we will reconvene next week. Until then,
Peace.
Peace.